Marco Rubio coming off that debate last night in South Carolina. Thanks for joining us this morning, Senator Rubio. And let's begin with that debate getting pretty nasty out there. You think, as Governor Kasich suggested, that you all might be hurting each other and helping the Democrats?
Well, sure. I've said that before. I mean, I always try to avoid that sort of engagement. It got me into trouble a week ago. Unfortunately, I had a bad moment because I chose not to go after Governor Christie and instead kind of respond by pivoting back to the central issues in this campaign. So it's kind of a catch-22. But in the end, I'm not running against any of these other Republicans. I'm running because I want to be president of the United States. But if you're attacked, I think it's important to respond. And so if I'm attacked at a debate, I'm going to respond. And last night, if you saw an exchange with Ted Cruz, you know, there's a situation happening now where Ted is literally saying things that aren't true habitually now in this campaign on issue after issue. You know, he's just in the last week, he hasn't told the truth about my position on Planned Parenthood, on marriage. He doesn't tell the truth about his previous stance on immigration. So these things have to be clarified, and they need to be addressed.
He said earlier this morning that he would filibuster any choice that President Obama made. Are you taking the same position?
Yeah, but he won't have to because Mitch McConnell's already made it very clear that we're not going to move forward until there's an election. And I think that's the right decision. The court can function with 8 justices. In the last year, within the last few months of the president's term, not be appointing Supreme Court justices. Now, the president can go ahead and nominate whoever he wants. The Senate shouldn't move forward on it until after the election. We're going to have an election in November. One of the key...
So if you're elected president, will you promise not to make an appointment in your final year?
Yeah, well, I'm not saying the president can't make an appointment. I'm saying we're not going to move forward on it in the Senate. And that has been the practice now for over 80 years. Well, he shouldn't. He has the legal right to do it. But, and as president, I would recognize that precedent. And the precedent that's been set over the last 80 years has been that in the last year of a president's term, and his second term especially, there should not be Supreme Court nominees put into lifetime positions for a president that you're not going to be able to hold accountable at the ballot box. There's going to be an election in November. This is going to be an issue in the election. The voters are going to choose a new president, and that new president, who I believe will be me, should then fill that vacancy for a lifetime appointment to the Supreme Court.
We also just heard Donald Trump say he doesn't think about impeachment of George W. Bush anymore, but he's not backing off those comments he made last night that President Bush lied about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Given those statements, is Donald Trump still a nominee you could support if Republicans choose him for the nomination?
Well, I would have hoped that Donald last night would have repudiated those comments and just said that's what he said then. He doesn't believe it anymore. I mean, his unwillingness to walk away from that is disturbing. He's not going to be the nominee. I'm going to be the nominee, so we're not going to have to worry about that. But it is a disturbing comment. Of course, I don't believe George W. Bush lied. I think George W. Bush acted based on the information provided to him that, by the way, was also shown to congressional leaders like Nancy Pelosi and others, and they, too, agreed with that assessment. Now, it turned out not to be accurate, and that's unfortunate. That being the case, he didn't lie. A lie is when you know what's true, and yet you say something different.
I know you hope that you're going to defeat Donald Trump, but my question is very simple. Will you support him if he's the nominee?
I'm going to the Republican nominee, and I think and I know the Republican nominee is going to be someone who holds views like mine. I don't share all the views that Donald Trump has, and I think ultimately he won't be the nominee. But I'll support the Republican nominee because the Republican nominee, no matter who it is on that stage, is still going to be a better choice than Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton.
Senator Marco Rubio, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks, George.